Hello everyone and welcome back to Nate the Hoof Guy. Today's video we've got 3 separate trims. We've got a couple of abscesses and we've got an ulcer that we're going to deal with. And now in this video we're going to talk about why I decide to use blocks, when I use blocks, and when I don't find it necessary to use blocks, and why to all those questions. If this is your first time to this channel, hit that subscribe button. If you've been here before but you're a fan of the Hoof GP and you're afraid that if you subscribe to another hoof trimmer it'd be like cheating, don't worry about it. I'll never tell. Hit that subscribe button. Alright, this first video we've got an abscess that we're dealing with here. Now, on a lot of videos you've seen me, when I've run into an abscess or a white line lesion like this, you've seen me block a foot. The way that I decide whether or not I'm going to block a foot has a lot to do with how the cow's reacting and the progression of the lesion. In this case, this cow really wasn't favoring this foot at all. So in my mind, a block is not necessarily going to be applied unless I come across something in the trim that tells me I need to. So as I work through this, that's when I'll make that decision. Looking at the feet, I've got nice solid white horn on the medial claw, and I've got good heel depth. That allows me to make the decision that this cow is not hemorrhaging in any way, she's comfortable, and I've got enough room in that medial claw that if I decide not to block her, I've got enough heel depth to do that. As I'm working my way paring down through this loose horn, I've noticed that I've got good horn growth on the other side of this, and the lesion itself is healing up quite nicely. In fact, there's very little, if any, openness left to this lesion. That tells me that though it may not be weight, it may not be completely capable of supporting weight at this point itself, with the help of that thicker medial claw, I may not need to use a block. Another thing I look at when I'm making this decision is whether or not I have enough heel depth on the medial claw to allow me to do this. In this case, I do. The problem with this, though, that we have to take into consideration is when I create an artificial imbalance like I'm going to do here, I'm going to create more wear on that medial claw, meaning I'm going to put more pressure on that medial claw, and over time it's going to wear faster. The way this works is as that medial claw then wears, giving this lateral claw rest, the two will meet up at some point and then they will balance out again. If I did not have enough medial claw depth, I wouldn't do that because I would be degrading that medial claw, which I don't want to do, and over the long term that would actually create a poorer foot angle, which is the opposite of what I'm trying to accomplish. As you can see, this lesion is healed up almost perfectly. All I'm going to do now is take a little bit more off of that lateral claw, flatten out that outside wall a little bit. That crack there is superficial. That's why I didn't keep digging it out. I can see the bottom of it, so I'm not going to take that out any further. From this point on, this foot is going to be good to go. No need for a block. I'm using the medial claw as my artificial block. All right, next up we have a sole ulcer, or some hemorrhaging that could be leading to a sole ulcer. At first, as I first uncover this, I'm not sure if this is going to go all the way in, so I've got to treat it as if I have a sole ulcer situation here. So this is what the lesion looks like at this point in the trim. This is potential to still have a sole ulcer situation going on here. Definitely some hemorrhaging, and I've got a little bit of white line issue up in that left-hand corner. So I got to keep that in mind as I trim. I'm going to leave that medial claw once again thick until I've determined what I need to do. I'm not going to take that down. You'll see as I trim this, I'm going to have quite a bit more depth on the medial claw than the lateral to act as my block if I need to. If you notice as I'm paring down through this, that sole ulcer area, that hemorrhaging, begins to go away the deeper I get in there. That's telling me that that she was actually healing this on her own with the added heel growth that she was putting on. This white line area as well, I'm going to carve out, and there's nothing there. So that's going to allow me to leave that medial claw where it is, act as a short-term block. Like I said before, the added weight on that will wear that. Having less weight on that lateral will allow that to put on more horn, and those two will meet not long down the road. Last up, we have a white line situation. Now, as we go through this trim, I'm going to let you guys watch and go through it and make your determination if you think this cow's going to need a block or not, and I'm going to tell you why I think she does or not later on in the trim. Well, have you made up your mind yet? Do you think she's going to need a block? Something's different about this trim than the other trims. I'll see if you guys can notice it as we go along. As I'm focusing on this white line section here, I'm kind of leading you astray. The answer is not in this white line, it's actually in the sole of this foot. As I pared this down and trimmed it with my grinder, removing more and more horn, if you notice at the beginning there was a lot of hemorrhaging in that claw. As I worked down through it, that hemorrhaging did not go away. So the cow's natural ability to produce horn to try to alleviate that hemorrhaging did not work, and that hemorrhaging is still going on in that foot even though that white line lesion has healed itself and is no longer causing a problem. That hemorrhaging is still present. That's telling me that there's still trauma going on the inside of that, and I need to find a way to give that rest. So this cow is going to actually get a block. Even though that white line is taken care of, that hemorrhaging inside the foot is concerning for me. So I'm going to put a block on there. I'm going to allow that to rest to try to alleviate that trauma that's going on, and hopefully we can get a better gauge on what's causing it, and maybe it just needs a little rest to make that go away. A couple of times during this video I've talked about cows putting on horn to actually try to prevent trauma of their own. That's the natural response of a cow. When she feels something wrong in the foot, something's not going right, there's pain, there's something causing discomfort to the cow, the natural response is to produce more horn. And that way you have more cushion to the bottom of the sole. It's really the only way that a cow can try to solve these problems herself. And if you go back to the beginning of this trim, you'll notice how the hemorrhaging was very obvious, very blotchy all over the foot, and it was very dark. As I worked in, it got better and better. That's because as she put on horn to try to alleviate that, she was actually helping the situation out. It didn't totally resolve the hemorrhaging, which is why this block is very important for me in this case. All right, that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.